The husband of Trump's labor secretary has been accused of sexual assault. The Guardian reporting that Sean DeRemer, he's the husband of Trump's labor secretary, Lori Chavez DeRemer. The husband has been accused by two women who work for the Labor Department. These two women have accused the husband of sexual assault. They say the assault took place inside the Labor Department building sometime back in December when the Labor Secretary's husband was visiting her. The two women reported the Labor Secretary's husband to police last month, begging the question, why didn't Trump name the husband Labor Secretary instead? He sounds more like the perfect fit for this administration. Well, yeah, yesterday was former Prince Andrew's birthday, so I sent him a cake with a saw in it. He's going to need it to break out of jail. Well, this is the king's youngest brother, Edward. Edward made an appearance at the Olympics, I believe on Wednesday. I like Prince Edward. He took a lot of heat 20 years ago for producing documentaries about the history of the royal family. Well, they were historically accurate. They were well made, fascinating. I like this guy, and it's not easy being a prince, especially in that family. He's conducted himself in a manner befitting a member of the royal family. Never let the side down, as they say. But if you had to pick one of King Charles's younger siblings to end up getting arrested, especially for hanging out with a transnational sex trafficker, I mean, if you had to cast someone in the royal family to play the part of Jimmy Olsen to Jeffrey Epstein's Clark Kent, I mean, Prince Edward fits the part. Again, I like Edward. Can't be easy being born into that family. I hear he's a devoted husband and father, but he does give off the vibe of every businessman you meet in an airport lavatory, right? This is the guy you always run into in an airport bathroom who's just a little too excited to be there. He's that guy whose eye contact lingers a second or two longer than it should. You know, he's carrying luggage. He looks like he's got a flight to catch, but there's that look in his eyes saying, right here, this restroom, that is my final destination. And I don't want to be disrespectful to Edward, especially since one of his older brothers just got stripped of all his royal titles for reasons I'll get into momentarily. Prince Edward, you got to respect this guy because according to Burke's Peerage, he is 8th in line for the girl working the register at White Castle in Woking to take his order. By the way, forget the Pizza Express in Woking that Andrew always talks about. The sliders at the White Castle in Woking are to die from. I mean, to die for. I like White Castle. They have vegan burgers, so they're a good company. I support any fast food outlet that believes in plant-based diarrhea. And I like Prince Edward. Sometimes Edward will show up shirtless at a White Castle unannounced and ask if anyone wants something unveiled. He'll just walk up to complete strangers and say, "Hi, I'm Prince Edward. Do you want me to cover something with red velvet and then pull it away while everybody applauds?" Andrew Mountbatten, the former prince, the former Duke of York, turned 66 on Thursday. Happy birthday, Your Royal Highness. What's this? It says, don't wish him a happy birthday? Oh, it's not a happy birthday. I see. Well, yeah, he just turned 66. It's not happy. It's depressing. The body can't do what it used to. I mean, I'm sure Andrew keeps a stiff upper lip, but probably can't say the same for the stuff down below. Well, I'm reading here that police showed up at Andrew's home on his birthday. Well, they probably had a card, right? Or perhaps they were male strippers dressed as bobbies. Sometimes male strippers dressed as bobbies show up at my apartment on special occasions when I order one. No, I'm saying here, it says here he was arrested on his 66th birthday and taken into custody. Okay, apparently this is more serious than I thought. The BBC is reporting the arrest on Thursday of Andrew Albert Christian Edward Mountbatten Windsor. Okay, but is that necessarily the Andrew? The favorite son of Queen Elizabeth? I mean, we're talking about England. There are plenty of people there named Andrew Albert Christian Edward Mountbatten Windsor. No, turns out it's the Andrew Albert Christian Edward Mountbatten Windsor. He was arrested at the royal family's Sandringham estate in Norfolk at 8 a.m. Thursday morning. Police also searched Andrew's previous residence, the Royal Lodge in Windsor. That would be the 30-room mansion bequeathed to Andrew by his mummy. I believe it was previously the home of the Queen Mummy. And after she died, Andrew got it, the Queen Mummy being the first Elizabeth. And Queen Elizabeth gave Andrew a 75-year lease on the Royal Lodge. But this month, he got thrown out, and so did his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, after the Department of Justice's big Epstein dump on January 30th of this year. Yeah, Andrew was arrested by the Thames Valley Police at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate. Andrew was transported to a local jail and held in a cell while detectives searched his new home on the Sandringham estate, as well as his previous home. They searched the Royal Lodge, which he had just been kicked out of, and moving vans showed up and took away art. Reports are that the police took into custody Andrew's computers, his cell phones, and they now have access to pretty much all his electronic communications going back decades. Now, he has not been charged, but he is being accused of, among other things, passing state secrets to Jeffrey Epstein. And if he's convicted, well, he could face life in prison, which means he'll have a place to live. So that's good. Lord Peter Mandelson, who served as the British ambassador to the United States until he was fired due to his Epstein connections last summer, he is also now being accused of passing state secrets to Jeffrey Epstein, but he has not been charged. Both Mandelson and Andrew were given vast sums of money by Jeffrey Epstein to help pay off their debts, and he also helped these two men pay off debts incurred by their respective spouses. This is a picture from the BBC of Andrew leaving the police station after his arrest. Well, what do we know so far? For someone dragged out of bed at 8 in the morning, Andrew is impeccable when it comes to grooming his nose hairs. I mean, seriously, most 66-year-old men have tropical rainforests growing inside their beaks. This is him just grabbed out of bed. Well done, sir. I hear Andrew has his schnozzle trimmed by the same guy who clear cuts the Amazon to make room for soybeans and cattle. It's expensive, but look at that. It's worth it. Well done. Also, for a guy who might be facing life behind bars, look at that picture. Andrew exudes the je ne sais quoi of a man who doesn't have a care in the world or a penny or a friend. Well, good for you, Andrew. Cool as a cucumber. Never let them see you not be able to sweat. That's what my father always used to say to me. Don't give them the satisfaction, David. Never let them see you not be able to sweat. So I'm not an expert on British criminal procedure, But from what I understand, Andrew was arrested but not charged with a crime, which means they could have detained him for 24 hours. It appears police held Andrew for 11 hours for questioning and then released him. Police must now go before a judge for permission to interrogate Andrew further. And as I understand it, that's normal procedure. Then they have 96 hours from the time of the arrest. That would be Thursday at 8 a.m. They have 96 hours to get that judge's permission to bring Andrew back in. So this is unfolding very quickly. And after that questioning, he may be charged. And then he might have to post bail. Problem is he has no money, and his older brother hates him. You know, the one guy who could post bond for Andrew is dead. There's never an Epstein when you really need one. I will tell you this, though, none of this would have happened if the Queen were still alive. Then again, this is what probably killed her in the first place. Andrew was stripped of all his royal titles in October of 2025. No longer HRH, His Royal Highness. Charles, his older brother, stripped Andrew of his titles as Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, and even Baron Killyleagh. I mean, not letting your younger brother keep the title Baron Killyleagh? I mean, that's just being petty and vindictive. But now that there's an opening, if King Charles is watching, I think David Feldman would be the perfect Baron Killyleagh. I'm going to need a castle, but here in the United States, I don't travel. Call me, Charles. Andrew also suffered the removal from the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. Do you know how humiliating it is to lose the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order? Almost as humiliating as being awarded the Order of the Garter and the Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. The royal family is like, like a sitcom. Everybody's got titles and nobody does anything. They just hand out titles to people. Anyway, Andrew is now a commoner, which means by law, he is subject to prosecution, presumably just like anybody else. Princess Anne is considered the family's James Brown, the hardest working royal in Buckingham Palace. She was actually arrested and convicted in 2002. So this has happened before. She was convicted for violating the Dangerous Dogs Act. I mean, sure, she's no longer the glamour puss she used to be, but I see no reason to convict Princess Anne of violating the Dangerous Dogs Act. No, it turns out it's Dottie, her English bull terrier, bit 2 children while she was walking Dottie in Windsor Great Park, and they convicted Anne. But the BBC reporting that with Andrew, what we now know so far about the arrest of Andrew is just the tip of the iceberg. They say what we know doesn't compare to what we don't know. And it looks as though we may actually find out, or at least some of it. They're prosecuting. The other countries are going through the Epstein files. Pam Bondi says, case closed. Europe is saying, Donald Trump called Andrew's arrest, quote, a shame and very sad. Trump claims he never met Andrew. Here is Trump with Melania not meeting Andrew in 2000 down in Mar-a-Lago. And here are Andrew, Melania, and Jeffrey Epstein not meeting each other at Mar-a-Lago in 2000. There are reports in the Epstein files that Andrew and Trump attended the same orgy down in Palm Beach that may have involved girls, 14-year-old girls. So does that mean Trump is lying when he says he doesn't know Andrew? Do you really know someone just because you attended an orgy together with underage girls? Allegedly. I mean, if it's true that they were at an orgy with underage girls, I mean, I'm not sure there's any small talk going on where people get to know one another. I mean, you can be married to somebody for 20 years and not really know them. Maybe Trump is telling the truth when he says he doesn't know Andrew. Why was Andrew arrested? Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, as you know, held the post of trade ambassador during much of the time he was associating with Jeffrey Epstein. In November of 2010, right around the time Andrew claimed to have severed ties with Epstein, according to newly released files, Andrew forwarded a report to Epstein written by a special advisor on British trade about investment opportunities in Hong Kong and Vietnam. It gets worse. According to new reporting, the files show that within 5 minutes of Andrew getting this government report, Andrew immediately sent it to Jeffrey Epstein. This would be right around the time Epstein was helping to pay off some of the debts incurred by Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, whom Andrew was living with inside the Royal Lodge. So they were divorced, but they were living, I think that's in sin if you're divorced. They were living inside the Royal Lodge. Now, this is an actual picture from inside the Royal Lodge. This is where Andrew was living up until a week ago. This is the sitting room. That is the standing room. That's the I don't feel like sitting or standing, so I'm just going to lean against the wall room. That's the breakfast room. That's the brunch room. That's the snack room. Sometimes on a busy day, the royal family often combines their snack with brunch. They call it snatch. It's a little snack with a little brunch. So this is the snatch room. Whenever Andrew was in the mood for snatch, he'd have his snatch served in this room. That would be the snatch room. And here is the amazing thing about the 30-room Royal Lodge. 30 rooms, one toilet. One toilet. And that is where Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were living until King Charles threw them out last week, although I think Sarah left before Christmas. They were living together at the Royal Lodge despite being divorced. That must be a sin. Are you allowed to live under the same roof with your ex-wife or your ex-husband? Who lives with their ex-wife? Who lives with their ex-husband? The whole point of a divorce is no longer breathing the same air they breathe. So, I don't understand these people. Why was Andrew arrested? Okay, so there is the serious breach of state secrets. Andrew, according to the Epstein dump, also sent private memos to Jeffrey Epstein on December 24th, 2010. That would be Christmas Eve. And he sent these memos, which were classified or maybe confidential. I don't know how they categorize secret memos in Great Britain, but it was not for Jeffrey Epstein to read. Andrew, according to the Epstein files, Andrew on Christmas Eve sent Epstein a document outlining the British Armed Forces plans to rebuild Helmand Province in war-torn Afghanistan. Andrew was forwarding the document to Epstein as a possible investment opportunity involving gold and possibly uranium that they were going to dig for in Helmand Province, and it was being paid for by British tax dollars. That's what Prince Andrew, then Prince Andrew, sent to Jeffrey Epstein on Christmas Eve. Instead of state secrets, I would have gone with a monogrammed handkerchief, but that's David Feldman. It's pretty bad if this is true. And again, you can get locked up for life, although I doubt anybody was trusting Andrew with really important state secrets. But let's play along with this farce that they're going for the big fish in Great Britain. When Lord Mandelson gets arrested, I mean, Andrew is a hood ornament. He should be arrested, but he has no power, no influence. And then there's another email from early February of 2011 where Andrew's advising Epstein to invest in a private equity fund. This email was sent several months past the time Andrew took that infamous walk in Central Park, supposedly telling Jeffrey Epstein, "We can't be friends anymore." If you saw the interview with Emily Maitlis on the BBC in 2019, he said, "I wanted to do the honorable thing, and I flew to New York and took a walk in the park with Jeffrey Epstein to tell him we can no longer be friends. I have never taken a walk in the park with another man to tell him we can no longer be friends. I've never told another man we can no longer, but I just don't return phone calls." This is Jeffrey Epstein being told by Prince Andrew in Central Park, "I think it's time we started seeing other pedophiles." Thames Valley Police that picture will live forever. That should be on British money, that picture of Andrew. That is. Thames Valley Police are taking the lead on this in coordination with several other British law enforcement agencies. So the big issue, or one of the big issues, is misconduct in public office, passing along trade secrets, state secrets, to Epstein for inside information, for investment opportunities. That, I believe, could be life in prison. And Lord Peter Mandelson should be accused. If they're going to accuse Andrew of this, they should be arresting Lord Peter Mandelson, who actually had influence and power. And then there is the issue of Epstein possibly trafficking women to Andrew's Royal Lodge estate in 2010. There are no reports that I've seen, let me know in the comments section, but I haven't seen any reports that the women being trafficked to Andrew from Epstein, that they were minors. And let's remember the age of consent in England is 16, but it is against the law to traffic adult women, especially when it's against their will. Virginia Giuffre said she was being trafficked against her will and was raped by Andrew. The Metropolitan Police are also looking into Andrew's royal protection officers, who may have been a little too chummy with the Duke of York when they accompanied him on trips to Pedo Island. There is the possibility that they may face charges for turning a blind eye to any crimes Andrew, Epstein, or anyone else on Pedo Island may have committed. The Surrey police are also said to be investigating an incident that allegedly took place back in the 1990s that just came to light after the most recent Epstein files dump. And this allegation involves minors. Inside the Epstein files are redacted reports of human trafficking and orgies with minors sometime between 1994 and 1996 that involved drugging girls, underage girls, with one accusation made that one of the victims was hit by a car driven by then Prince Andrew. She required hospitalization. The redacted report claims Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell had sex with minors during this period in an area of Surrey known as Virginia Water. Virginia Water is a part of Surrey. It was only a few miles away from Andrew's home at the time. Well, they're saying that Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell were having sex with minors. If only Ghislaine Maxwell were still alive, she could shed light on all. Oh, right. She is still alive. So 5 miles away from Virginia Water, this is the part of Surrey where these orgies with minors took place. 5 miles away from the alleged orgies was Andrew's Sunninghill Park estate, built for him and Sarah Ferguson in 1990. After the divorce and strapped for cash, Andrew sold the Sunninghill Park estate in 2007 for £15 million to a billionaire who was also the son-in-law of Kazakhstan's then president, Nursultan Nazarbayev. By most estimates, this Kazaki billionaire paid about 20% more than what the estate was worth. A BBC investigation right after the sale suggested the money Andrew received from the purchase was tied to an international network of money launderers and gangsters who were in the business of bribing foreign heads of state. The problem is Andrew is not a foreign head of state. He's a figurehead of state. He has no influence, no power. I mean, lock him up for life, but I want to know about Lord Peter Mandelson. I want to know about Trump. De-dump, de-dump. Andrew is low-hanging fruit. Arrest him. Lock him up. 9 years after the sale of the Sunninghill estate to, was it called the Sunninghill estate? Did I get that right? Yeah, the Sunninghill Park estate. He sold that to a billionaire for 20% more than it was worth. 9 years later, the Daily Mail broke the story that Andrew had brokered some kind of £385 million deal in Kazakhstan and then tried to collect a £4 million commission, £385 million deal, and he wanted a £4 million commission. So this was part of a larger pattern in which Andrew was attracted to shady foreign businessmen in places like Libya, Tunisia, and of course, Mar-a-Lago. Some of this happened while Andrew served as a trade ambassador for Great Britain. It was from 2001 to about 2011 when he was trade ambassador for Great Britain. He would travel on private jets with a large retinue of friends and associates, was paid for by taxpayers, thus earning him the moniker Air Mile Andy. That's what they called him, Air Mile Andy. He wouldn't take commercial jets, had to be private. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has already called for Andrew to testify before the House Oversight Committee here in the United States, which is looking into Epstein's crimes. Bill and Hillary testify next week before this committee. So Keir Starmer said Andrew should testify. He said that like a week ago. But after Thursday's arrest, the British Prime Minister is now urging Andrew to cooperate fully with the police. According to all reports, King Charles was not notified that Andrew was about to be arrested. Scotland Yard never gave the king a crowns up. That's what they call it, giving somebody a crown. In America, we call it a heads up. In England, they call it a crowns up. Hey, I'm giving you a crowns up. Your brother's about to be arrested. It's the same language, but they have different expressions. Like we call them cigarettes. You don't want to know what they call cigarettes in Great Britain. Do you know what they call cigarettes in Great Britain? retards. That's what they call cigarettes in Great Britain, retards. I think that's what they call cigarettes. It's something horrible. It's something you're not supposed to. I think it's retards or something else. Anyway, it's a word you're not supposed to say. Well, Charles didn't get a crowns up, but I don't think Charles needed to be told Andrew was about to get arrested because I suspect Charles turned him in. There is no love lost between those two. Andrew was Mummy's favorite. She left the corgis to Andrew. Did you know that? She loved the corgis more than she loved her children. She loved Andrew more than she loved all her other children, but she loved the corgis more than she loved Andrew. She left the corgis to Andrew. So you know where her heart was. Wasn't with Charles. And Charles always felt threatened by Andrew. His popularity, especially after Andrew returned home from the unnecessary war in the Falklands in 1982, he came back as a hero. As you know, Andrew was severely wounded during the Falkland War. Doctors had to amputate his sweat glands. I think that's the story he told Emily Maitlis during that 2019 BBC interview. I mean, he did say, I don't sweat because of something that happened during the Falkland War. Well, he's sweating now. King Charles issued a statement after his brother's arrest saying the law must take its course. That is a new picture of Charles. Why is he wearing white ermine before July? That is, somebody call the fashion police. Forget Scotland Yard, Charles. White ermine before July. Have you ever, is it pronounced ermine or yeah, ermine? Delicious. Ermine, not just, you shouldn't just wear ermine. You should, I think he doesn't wear actual ermine. I think he's politically correct when it comes to the ermine. Queen Camilla was attending an afternoon concert when news of the arrest broke. She waved and refused to comment. Here she is getting into a car. I would check the brakes. Just, you are Charles's wife. Always check the brakes. The future king and queen of England, that would be William and Kate, they issued a statement that they support the king's statement on Andrew. Very brave of them. They hate Andrew. They do. Word is, at one point when Charles's approval rating was down where Trump's is right now, after Diana died, everybody hated Charles. And Andrew, the war hero, stepped up and met with Mummy and lobbied hard to become the heir apparent, brother against brother. So, yeah, there's a lot of contempt for each other. And they're not really a family. It's a business. And anyway, for people who follow the royal family, and I do, I am obsessed with the royal family. And I don't want to get into why. But if you do follow the royal family, Andrew was special. He wasn't just the Queen's favorite. He was Britain's favorite because he was Elizabeth's first child to be born while she was queen. Princess Anne and Prince Charles were born when Elizabeth was just a princess. In fact, when Andrew entered this world on February 19th, 1960, Andrew was the first child born to a sitting British monarch in 103 years. This was huge. He is beloved if you follow this stuff, he is beloved. And there's no getting around the fact that he is a naval hero, especially during the unnecessary 1982 war with Argentina over the Falklands. As a helicopter pilot during this unnecessary war, it was Andrew's job to serve as a decoy for incoming missiles to confuse the guidance systems inside Exocet missiles aimed at the ships below him. In other words, Andrew's job was to draw missile fire away from others. Kind of like what's going on now. I mean, he's taking the hits for Epstein. I want to see Lord Peter Mandelson. I want to see who else they're going to arrest. Right now, it feels like he's a decoy. I mean, he did some bad things. He did lock him up. Low-hanging fruit. It's very easy to arrest Andrew. Let me see Lord Peter Mandelson arrested. So this was, if you're into war, unnecessary wars that Margaret Thatcher needed to distract from her failing economic policies. If you're into this shit, it was pretty dangerous and heroic stuff. And Andrew remained in the Navy until 2001, and then Mummy gave him the title of Royal Trade Ambassador, which he held for 10 years. Epstein is not Andrew's only lapse in judgment. There's also his 15-year friendship with Yang Tengbo, a Chinese businessman who, it is believed, turned out to be a spy for the Chinese Communist Party. But really, what could Andrew tell the Chinese Communist Party? Virginia Giuffre alleged that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked her to have sex with Andrew on at least 3 occasions, once in London, once in New York, and once on Pedo Island. That started in 2001 when she was 17. In 2022, her civil lawsuit in New York began to breathe down the royal family's neck, and Andrew, or at least the Queen, paid an estimated $16 million to Virginia Giuffre. It was an out-of-court settlement, and he did not say that he raped her. That was the payment. Virginia Giuffre died by suicide in April of last year, and her family continues to call for Andrew's arrest. One family member said, quote, "He was never a prince." And then for survivors everywhere, Virginia did this for you, stepping forward, going public, suing. You see how hard it is for these women, these victims, to step up. Virginia Giuffre's family told CBS News after Andrew's arrest, quote, "At last today, our broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty." Virginia Giuffre's brother, Sky Roberts, what happened there? Let's go back. Virginia Giuffre's brother, Sky Roberts, told BBC's Newsnight after Andrew's arrest that he would continue to commend the king for the actions he's taken bringing Andrew to justice. Maria Farmer was the first Epstein victim to report Epstein to the police. She also reported Trump. This was back in 1996. She told both the FBI and the New York City Police Department that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell raped her in the summer of 1996 on the estate owned by Les Wexner, who testified on Wednesday that he had no idea who Maria Farmer was. In 2019, Maria Farmer swore under oath during a deposition in Virginia Giuffre's defamation lawsuit against Alan Dershowitz. Maria Farmer testified that she was raped by Epstein and that she twice reported it to the FBI and the New York City Police Department, and twice they did nothing. She also said she told the FBI and the New York City Police Department of a very, very, very creepy exchange she had inside Epstein's townhouse with Donald Trump. And she urged law enforcement to look into Epstein's circle of friends, including, she said, Donald Trump. Well, after news broke of Andrew's arrest, Maria Farmer said, quote, "Today is just the beginning of accountability and justice brought forth by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, a young mother who adored her daughter so deeply, she fought the most powerful people on earth to protect her. She did this for everyone's daughters. Let's now demand all the dominoes of power and corruption begin to fall." Amen to that. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed any of this, please hit the like button. There's something else you can do. Hyping. There's something called hyping. Leave a comment if I made any mistakes. I'm not British, so if you're watching in England or Great Britain or the United Kingdom, let me know if I made any mistakes. I issue corrections on this show. Please subscribe to my newsletter, subscribe to this channel, hit the notifications bell so I keep irregular hours. I wish I could just do this show at the same time every day, but I'm a one-man operation here, and I have to check my facts. And I don't want to say anything. I don't want to get anything wrong. So it takes a while to prepare this show. So hit the notification bell. That way you'll always know when a new episode is up. Okay. I think I'm going to do a show tomorrow. I think. Share this, please. Thank you.